Welcome back to another video journal. I wanted to talk about waking up in the Western world. Waking up to consciousness, waking up to existence and reality as it is. So in this, I can only speak from direct experience, but in this Western world, in this society, at least I can only say in the environment that I'm in, the environment that I witness around me, the notion of waking up, the notion of spiritual enlightenment is seen as having no validity and is seen as a foolish pursuit and seen as insignificant and irrelevant. And so it's fucking hard when you are waking up to something fundamental and true. It's it can be a very lonely and frustrating journey. The journey of waking up. And because I think that, spirituality and waking up, enlightenment, all these sort of words, this vocabulary has a lot of connotations towards, hippie, woo-woo, laziness, hey man, it's all cool, dude, just chill out and relax. Because it is quite obvious that it's like there are fucking problems going on in the world, there's a lot of suffering in the world. And I think a lot of people think that all this kind of spiritual shit is just a way to avoid the suffering, to push it under the rug. But actually, if you're doing it truthfully, it's not that you're pushing suffering under the rug, you're going directly in it and through it. You're seeing the illusory nature of suffering. You're penetrating suffering so much that it becomes empty, that you see that it has no solidity to it, and that it's not inherently true. Spirituality is just about asking, what is true? What do I actually know to be real? It's waking up to sensory experience. It's waking up to all that you know to be true and real. Because the reason we suffer is because we have a lot of concepts that we believe in that aren't necessarily true. You know, we don't know the whole truth, you know. And this is why we suffer. Basically, it's really difficult. I've got a big problem with self-righteousness and frustration. And many people do. Whether or not you're into spirituality or not, many people hold, you know, wherever they stand, wherever their sense of self is, they want to defend that and protect that. Wherever they think they're standing, you know, if you're standing in some political view or some spiritual view, it's like that's your ground of being. That's where you stand. That's the reality that you see. You think that is true, and so anyone that's kind of like that you perceive to be operating outside of what you think is true and right, you get frustrated, you know. I mean, it's the whole political thing, isn't it? Is that, I mean, I'm not into politics at all, but it's like that's what, because this is what politics is. It's just trying to defend your point of view. And so this is like a really this is a big barrier in spirituality, because really spirituality, the whole journey of it, is to stand in a place that you know is true. And I think the basic thing is that you can't really know what's true. At the end of the day, all you have is sensations, and you don't even know what sensations are, you know, including the mind sensation, thoughts and feelings. You know, when you really dissect it down to the microscopic level, when you know, it's like a meditation, you know. When you're observing the breath, what is the breath? It's not the breath, that's just a concept, that's a label that you're putting on it. It's just sensation that you're aware of. And it's the same with thought, and but anyway, what was I saying? Like, so yeah, spirituality is really about kind of realizing that there is no ground to stand in. There is no truth to stand in. There's no ground of being. So the big barrier in spirituality is defending a truth. You know, the truth needs no defense. But yeah, this is another barrier, is you can start to conceptualize the truth and think that is the truth when it's not. Because the truth cannot be held in any concept or any words. Truth is beyond mind. But it still is very lonely, because here's the thing, is that yes, like the whole program of spirituality needs to be transcended as well. But the thing is, it's a step above from the rest, what it seems to be the rest of the world, what people are operating at. And this is the hard thing for me, is that the environment that I'm in, that I witness around me, it seems like you know, there are parts of me that it feels like I'm a step above, and I don't mean like that I'm better than people. Although this can be a trap, is that, you know, I constantly find myself feeling frustrated with people's ignorance and feeling righteous about my own perspective. Because it is, in a sense, relatively more true, but it's not absolutely true. And one of my concerns is that it's like, well, okay, what if I just like let go of this frustration and this righteousness and just fucking keep going to the top, where there is no top and it just kind of fucking transcends everything and it just encapsulates everything. And I realize that there is no right or wrong view, there is no truth, there is no inherent existence. Then everything will be fine, right? But then my concern is that it's like, if I do that, I'm gonna be fucking lonely. But then it's a thing of like, well, I already am lonely. I'm imagining that I'm not lonely. I'm imagining that there are other people with other perspectives. Because all I know is consciousness. All I know is experience, is sensation. No concept, no belief is true. And you see, I'm holding on to that belief. I'm holding on. My sense of self, part of it is standing in the belief that there is no belief. You see how fucking paradoxical this is? How contradictory this is? And this is why I get frustrated and like feelings of self-righteousness when I just experience the ignorance within people and I just want to fucking say something, just like, and ultimately it comes down to, you know, like suffering. Like, naturally you just want to relieve other people's suffering, but in order to do so you've got to relieve your own suffering. And this, like, it comes back to just what I said before, is that I'm afraid to just release and relieve my own suffering, because then it just feels like I'm gonna fucking, sort of feels like I'm gonna be selfish and just sort of like, it's really weird. Like, I suppose it's the fear of realizing oneness, really, because oneness can be an extraordinary experience where you realize that everything is connected, interconnected, and you realize that it's all just one thing. But it can also be really fucking frightening, because oneness also means that what is this one thing? Well, it's consciousness, really, isn't it? The only thing that I can know to be true is consciousness. And so consciousness is that one thing. And so what's frightening about this is that, well, who I truly am is consciousness. And so I am that only one thing. I am alone here. I can't know anybody else's experience. I can't know anybody else's consciousness. And it's only my assumptions in my mind that are assuming that other people are conscious and that they have their own experience. And, you know, spirituality is about dissecting every little belief and assumption. And so it's this fear of doing that. Like, do I actually really want to fucking dissect all my beliefs down to the microscopic level and penetrate them and see the emptiness within them and see that there is no fucking inherent existence within anything, and that I'm fabricating everything with my mind, all the perceptions that I have? It's all fabricated. It's not true. Can I go beyond that? Am I willing to? And no, I'm not. Because it means dying, really. There's just this big part of me that wants people to understand me. That there's a part of me that wants people to understand me and wants people to understand spiritual awakening and all these spiritual concepts. And I get frustrated when I just see the ignorance within people, when people don't see this. And, you know, it's a common thing, really. But there's still, I don't know. And you see, this is the thing, this is what's stopping me from going beyond the beyond, you know. This is where my sense of self lies at the moment, these days, is that it's really centered around other people, because, like, I feel like all of us human beings in this age right now, our whole identity is based around other people. Like, who would you be if no one existed? If everyone was just vanished from the earth tomorrow and you had to live the rest of your life alone? Like, you would change a lot. And you'd be more true to who you actually are. Because I feel like we're constantly altering our identity for other people. It's really fucking tricky. The ego. So I also want to talk about therapy. I finally bitten the bullet and booked myself some counselling. But I'm really on the fence about the effectiveness of it, really. I'm going to a holistic one where it focuses on, you know, all aspects of yourself, not just your mental side, but also the physical and emotional and spiritual, social, environmental, you know, everything. So I think that's important, because my views on sort of mainstream therapy is that they're not addressing truth. It's all kind of like reframing, just like it's just swapping one belief for another belief, or it's just tearing down one fabrication to create another fabrication. But at the end of the day, both beliefs, both fabrications are false. And so, I mean, yeah, it may help. It's like, obviously you'd rather be in a positive dream than a negative dream. You'd rather be in a fucking heavenly dream than a nightmare, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, they're still dreams. They're not real. And this is my thing about therapy, is that it's just my belief that if I were to talk about spiritual shit and the actual insights that I have and the actual beliefs that I have, you know, it would just seem to me that they would look at me as crazy. It's like, you've got probably psychosis or some shit. And this is the thing I was talking about with waking up in the Western world, is that it's not a valid thing. It's seen as psychotic. And I'm hesitant about therapy because it's, at the end of the day, only you can help yourself. Like, at the end of the day, it is only you. You are the only one. The way you perceive others, the way you interact with others, is all just your mind playing with your mind. And so I don't know, it's hard for me to open up. You know, this is the big thing as well, is that I've got a lot of these insights that would seem fucking crazy to people, but seem so true to me. And because it's not a concept. Like, this is what I'm trying to get at, is that I'm saying that you can't be sure that any of your beliefs are true. There is no, you know, you can't prove it. I'm really going fucking existential, really trying to find out the nature of who I am and what reality is. And, you know, people are programmed to see this kind of shit as weird and crazy. The strange thing is that waking up is actually becoming sane in an insane world. And so, of course, the what you'd think to be sane is going to see you as insane. You know, waking up, you can see quite clearly that everybody's insane and you're becoming sane. That you're shedding all this bullshit and you're just finding what's actually true. But to other people, they're the sane ones and you are becoming insane. And so this is the whole thing with kind of therapy, is that you're going to go there and it's going to be like, well, this person's insane. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's really tricky, you know, and I see that in this day and age we are getting better. There are more resources coming out, that people are seeing spiritual awakening as a more valid thing. But at the end of the day, if you haven't experienced it, if you only know spiritual awakening as a concept, I just don't see how I could get any help if someone hasn't experienced spiritual awakening for themselves. And so this is a really tricky thing for me, and you know how fucking isolating it can be? So it's tough for me to express what I express here to other people. And that's really what I want to do. Because I feel like mean, most of the times when I film a video journal, it's to get my thoughts out of my head. It's to get something off my chest. It's a journal. It's a journal entry. Most of the time, I'm overwhelmed. I've got a lot of thoughts in my head, and so I just want to get it out. So I don't film a whole lot when I'm just kind of like enjoying life or whatever, you know, because I've got no need to film or anything. And so, like, because the map that I use for sort of betterment, the map or the procedure or the process that I use for improvement, for happiness, is different to one that therapists use or most people. Because the map that I use is the realization that suffering occurs because of some core delusion that you have, and that core delusion is the belief in the existence of yourself. No self, no problem. Right? If you investigate long and hard enough, you do see experientially that there is no self. And you can see that this is what is causing suffering. Really, the two core things are impermanence and no self. If you can realize them 100%, you will no longer suffer. And this is my map. But other people don't want to go down this route because they don't see the validity in this. They think this is just weird, religious, or I don't know what people think, but you know, so the map, what I see is that if you know who you are, you won't suffer. But it seems like, you know, most people and like therapists are just operating on the level of mind. So it's like, oh, here's some skills that you can practice to be less anxious, and all this stuff, which can help. I'm not saying it doesn't help, but at the end of the day, it's like, if you really want to eradicate suffering, it's kind of like you have to realize that there is no self. So we attach our sense of self to anxiety, which is what causes the suffering. If we just notice the anxiety and we don't attach a sense of identity to it, there's no resistance. It's just like, here's a sensation. Yes, it's a more intense sensation than usual, but it's still a sensation nonetheless, and it's not a personal thing. It's just a happening of the universe. And so I'm this is another thing that I get frustrated about and righteous about, that therapy is bullshit because it's just operating on the level of mind. And you can keep switching your beliefs for your whole life and still suffer. I think you have to transcend your beliefs. You know, because if you were saying to a therapist, like, I've had this experience where it feels like I am God, or like I experience that I am not my thoughts, that my thoughts are just arising, and that I have no free will, and that everything's happening on its own, and that I'm not in control. A therapist would look at that and think that that's delusional, that you're insane, when actually that's how it is. That's the truth. The insane thing is believing that you do have free will, or believing that you are a self, or believing that you are a separate entity. And so this is, fuck man, like, I have got fucking therapy session the day after tomorrow, the first one, and I think I'm gonna write down a lot of shit, because like I said, it's hard for me to express to people what I actually perceive and believe in. And so I need to sort of write it down first, take it in, I reckon. So I'm seeing a holistic therapist, and I'm not saying therapy is unhelpful. It can be very helpful for people for certain issues and challenges that they face, but it really depends who you are. But I think, like, at the end of the day, if you really want to eradicate suffering from your life and really live a good life where you're really present and joyful of the present moment all the time, then I think you really need to take this spiritual path, and you need to take it seriously, and you need to start inquiring into the nature of yourself and reality. Because I think that there are some practical tools that I could use that don't need to be referenced at all to the spiritual path. Like, there are definitely practices and tools that I could benefit from for sort of social anxiety and things like that, and they would be helpful. But at the same time, I also think that if you realize that there is no self, and you take this spiritual path, it's like, if you wake up first, then that kind of social anxiety, for an example, is just going to fade away on its own, because you see the illusion within it. There's the saying, wake up, clean up, grow up. But a lot of people are just cleaning up, right? Which you're going to be cleaning up forever until you can actually wake up. So I think that really the best way to go about this is wake up first, and then the cleaning up just happens on its own. The releasing of all your bullshit conditions fade away on its own, because you realize who you are, and you realize that this conditioning that you're facing is not who you are, and so you see the illusory nature within it, and so it slowly but surely fades away on its own. It sheds. You shed your conditioning because you're not giving the energy to it. You're not placing a sense of identity in it. But yeah, I'm going to therapy because I feel like there's a lot I need to get off my chest to an actual person. and to get some feedback and help. And I don't know, just it's something that I feel like I need to do, because a big thing in my life is this sort of this inability to take action. And I've been thinking about therapy for ages, really, and I was like, it's now or never, And I don't fucking know if it's going to be beneficial or not. I mean, I think ultimately, of course, it will be beneficial to talk to someone about these issues. I don't know.